Hey everybody, my name is Ryan Malkin and I'm an attorney in the alcohol beverage industry. I have a law practice based in Miami Beach, Florida, Malkin Law. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about distributor agreements. First, like with all legal discussions, this does not establish an attorney-client relationship, but is for information purposes only and should not be treated as specific legal advice. That being said, let's talk about distributor agreements. Of course, if you're taking advantage of Park Street self-distribution model in New York, New Jersey, Florida, or California, that's great. However, if you're in a different state where you have to appoint a distributor, or you're moving past that model in those states that they have self-distribution, let's talk about what happens when you receive that first distribution agreement. We'll put aside the franchise issues for a moment and assume that we're in an open state. The first thing to remember is that most distributor agreements, regardless of the length of the term, will have an automatic renewal. That means maybe you'll see a 5-year term or a 10-year term or a term of any length, and your first thought will be, well, let me make it a 1, 2, 3, or 5-year term. Like with normal contracts, you would say, well, at the end of that time, we're done, and we can decide if we want to renew. That's not necessarily the case in distribution agreements where it says, if you don't automatically renew, you have to pay some sort of fee. So the term is one of those things where maybe you want to negotiate, maybe you don't, based on how the rest of the agreement is going for you. Terms of sale is another key point. A lot of times distributors will say we'll pay you in 60 or 90 days. And as a small supplier, cash flow is probably very important to you. So you may want to ask for 30 or 45 days, preferably 30, of course. The next bit that's very important are the distributor obligations. The form contract they send you may have obligations that say they'll use commercially reasonable efforts or reasonable efforts to do a good job selling your products in the market. That may not be good enough. You're going to want to have things that include a material breach on their part if they don't do certain things. So, for instance, goals. Maybe they have to hit 90% of the mutually agreed upon goals you have for whatever period of time, say a year. If they don't hit those 90% of those goals, then that's deemed a material breach or cause for you to terminate without paying the termination fee that we'll get into later. So you want to be very careful to talk about what those goals are, whether it's points of distribution or actual cases. You want to make sure that you do set some parameters for your distributor. And so you're both on the same page. Also, you can include minimum purchases. They may be the same as goals or it may be slightly different, but you want to have a minimum purchase amount. So say they have to buy 1,000 cases from you as a minimum purchase requirement. If they don't, then you can terminate for cause. Similarly, if they buy that 1,000 cases but then don't sell 90% or deplete 90% of that, if that's what the goal is we talked about, then you can similarly terminate for cause. You also want to perhaps consider including things like guaranteed ability to present a couple times a year in front of the sales force, perhaps an annual and quarterly business review meeting, access to various records, and perhaps an LMF. An LMF is what's sometimes referred to as a local marketing fund or a distributor marketing fund or a distributor bank. And that's money the distributor sets aside from each case, so say $2 per case they sell, back to the distributor's marketing for the products in that state. So maybe they use it for point of sales or to print menus, tastings, or even distributor incentives. The other thing you want to think about is the new territories and new products provision that are often included, especially with the distributors that are in multiple states. So they'll often say, well, hey, we get the first right of refusal for any new products you bring out, whether it be a different, maybe you only sell a whiskey and this is your gin. Maybe you do want to give it to that distributor, maybe you don't. So you just want to consider that. And then on new territories, sometimes they'll require that if that distributor is in another state, say you're setting up a distributor in New York and they also happen to be in Florida, they'll want first order refusal to either buy you out of your current Florida contract or to take you in any other market they're in, like in our example, Florida. You may want to carve that out so you have the ability to choose who you want to appoint in those new states. You don't have to, but it's something to consider. And then, of course, termination, that's the biggest one. You want to know how you're going to be able to get out. It's like a marriage. It's sort of a prenup. That's what your distributor agreement is sort of akin to. Now, in terms of termination, a lot of times there's a couple different ways to do it. Of course, there's termination for cause, and that's why we were linking up those goals and minimum purchases to terminate them for cause. Ideally, there'd be a provision there where you don't have to pay. You give them notice that they didn't hit the number or whatever those requirements were, and then you can terminate. On the other side of it, if you want to terminate for no reason at all, not because they weren't doing anything wrong, but because you just simply want to get out, to move to a different distributor or what have you, that would be something where you probably will have to pay a termination fee. Some distributor agreements don't have any provision that would let you out at all, other than for cause. So you just want to make sure that you do have a way out, and that way out is a fee based on whatever you think is reasonable. Sometimes it's 2 times gross profit, sometimes it's 5 times. Obviously, you want to negotiate to the best of your ability to get closer to 2 times. So that way, at least you can get out by paying 2 times gross profits and move on to another distributor if you so choose. That being said, obviously your distributor contract is very important and should probably be reviewed by somebody with experience. Please feel free to reach out with any questions. I can be reached at malkin.law, malkin.law. Thank you and good luck.